do you have a favorite type of tea?
I mean, the only kind of tea that I really like is chai.
Really? You don't drink any other type of tea?
I mean, I'll drink other ones, but I don't enjoy them nearly as much.
You don't savor them?
Not really. And admittedly, even chai, I do drown in honey, but it's the best because it's all like cinnamony and just tastes like fall in a cup. It's nice.
Fall in a cup. I fell in a cup once.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator, and Emily, I hope you're thirsty today.
Oh!
Emily, your word is samovar. S-A-M-O-V-A-R. Samovar.
Okay. So
Emily made a face I've never seen before. It was fantastic.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have no idea specifically what it means, but I know exactly where I've heard it in a singular context.
I know that you do. Yeah.
I guess by that, I'll assume that you're going to get to it later.
I mean, I won't get to it later, but we can talk about that. Now, you can bring it up.
I know it because there's one lyric in one song in Anastasia where Anastasia says, the samovar, the caviar, dessert, and then good night. So I assume this is like a fancy food thing?
Perhaps.
It's a noun. It's got to be, right?
It is a noun, yep.
It is a noun. You wouldn't give me like a specific food, would you? You wouldn't do that to me. You would.
I mean, it's me. Yeah, I definitely would.
Okay. My out of the blue guess, and then I'll ask for a hint. Actually, can I ask for the language of origin?
It comes through Russian.
Well, that adds up if it's in Anastasia.
That adds up, right? Yep.
Oh, wow. So my thinking is it's like an appetizer. It's like an amuse-bouche kind of a thing. That's as close to a guess as I'm prepared to get.
You're in not the category, but the greater category, if that makes any sense, but you're not right.
Okay. Can I have a hint? Your
hint, Emily, is hosting, which may not be helpful.
Well, I have another guess based on that. I don't know if it'll be right. Yeah. Like past hors d'oeuvres was the first thing that popped into my head when you said hosting.
Oh, like hors d'oeuvres that get passed around?
Like a server comes around with a tray and says, would you like some of this? And then you take it and he waits so that you could give him back the little dish that it was in.
It's very twee, Emily. I like it. But no, you are incorrect, but I love all the thoughts that you're thinking there.
Thank you. Unfortunately, those are all the thoughts I have, so you're going to have to tell me what it means.
Emily, I mean, you might have hors d'oeuvres with a samovar in the vicinity, but a samovar is a metal urn with a spigot, most closely associated with Russia, for boiling water for making tea.
Oh, the question at the top was tea.
It was tea. It was related. Can you believe it?
That's right. Okay. Oh, well, I'm very interested to hear more about this because I'm trying to piece together why it was in that lyric in that song.
So Merriam-Webster also has like a second definition of samovar as an urn similar to a Russian samovar with a device for heating the contents. So I guess like in extended use, but I haven't actually seen it used that way.
So in that definition, it could just mean like one of those tea kettles that's on a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as Mary J. Barry puts it in her 1971 article, the samovar, its history and use. Basically, the samovar is a water boiler with a tube running through it, which serves as a miniature stove.
A tube. Oh, so it has basically like a heating coil?
No, a tube.
A tube running through it, but the tube is what heats it?
Bingo! You got it, Emily.
Okay.
So, let me describe for you what a samovar looks like. The samovar body comes in a variety of shapes, like a million shapes. It can be shaped like anything. Most often like an urn shape is what it has.
Sure. But now that you've said it can be shaped like anything, I'm imagining like the crazy cups that you get on like cruises and things.
Crazy cups with straws?
Yeah. It's got a crazy straw. It's like a tiki.
Yeah. And
That's
there's an
what I'm
umbrella
imagining.
hanging out of it. Yeah. In Russia, it makes sense.
Absolutely. Oh no, it's a Russian doll. That's what it looks like.
Oh, a matryoshka.
And then the tube in the center that heats it is a smaller Russian
It's just
doll.
a smaller doll. It just sounds like a really tedious bomb. Samovars are always made of some type of metal, such as iron, copper, brass, nickel, tin, silver, or gold, and thus, depending on the era and manufacturer, they could be very elaborate, beautiful ornaments. So the tube in the center is filled with some type of fuel: charcoal, wood, pine cones, kerosene, whatever they wanted, sometimes newspapers. TNT, yeah, fuel, electrolytes.
Yeah.
And when the samovar is lit, it keeps the water boiling in the chamber that surrounds it, basically in perpetuity. It'll boil as long as you're keeping the fire stoked.
Sure. It's a sterno.
It's a sterno pre-1900s.
Yeah.
And then when boiling water is called for, all you need to do is turn the little spigot at the bottom.
Wow. That's fun.
Honestly, a fantastic device.
That's a genius invention.
Good.
What era was it made?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
That's a very difficult question to answer, Emily. The answer is always, but...
Okay.
Yeah. So the term samovar comes directly from the Russian word samovar with two roots. The prefix sama is akin to the English prefixes auto or self. And this ultimately comes from the Proto-Indo-European word somhos, meaning same or alike, and its root same, meaning together or one, from whence we get English words like same, similar, and simultaneous, etc., etc. The list goes on.
Perfect.
Then that second part comes from the Russian varit, meaning to cook or to boil or to brew beer. That's possibly a descendant of the Proto-Indo-European root ware, meaning to burn, from whence we get the English warm.
That's it. So it's self-warming.
Yeah, literally, it essentially means self-boiler.
Perfect.
That's basically what it means.
Sums
And it's
it up.
the construction of the word may have been inspired by similar words referring to magical folkloric objects. So, for example, and for everybody out there who's Russian, I am so sorry for my pronunciations in this episode. There's going to be a lot of it. They didn't mention half of these things in Anastasia, otherwise I'd know how to pronounce them,
I do know one person who will probably listen who's, I think, fluent in Russian, so this will be fun.
Perfect. I'll get notes afterwards.
Yeah.
So, for example, samalot from litat, meaning to fly, essentially means self-flyer. And while today it's the Russian word for airplane, it originally referred to magic flying carpets.
Wow, because that's what that is.
So fun.
An airplane is a flying carpet.
Yeah, it flies itself.
And there's carpet on it.
And there's carpet on it, yeah. Isn't that fun?
That is super fun. I want all of our technological words to just be like the magical words that we had before.
The magical words.
I want to apply this to everything.
What else could that be?
Like a phone becomes like a magic conch.
The magic conch! My conchular phone. There's also the skaterts samobranka, literally self-gathering tablecloth, a magical tablecloth of Russian folklore that when spread produces food and drink, and when you're done eating, it just gathers itself up.
Is there a real life equivalent for that?
No, that one doesn't have a real life equivalent yet. Yet. We're going to make it happen. Each samovar made their own sounds during the boiling process. It's described as first a singing sort of sound, and then a sound that's called the White Spring. And this led to the belief that each samovar had their own voice and soul, and Russians believed that samovars were talking to them.
I love this.
Isn't that beautiful?
This is lovely. Like, people treated them like pet rocks. Like this one is mine. It's my friend. It's like really attached, I'm imagining.
I mean, yes, they became really attached to these because they were expensive objects.
Sure.
So when a family had one, it was passed down through the generations often.
Sure.
And I don't have, stories of people talking to their samovars, but I can see, like...
Can you make one up? It just midway through the episode, just slip one in.
Yeah. Yeah. Midway through the episode, you're going to start realizing these facts don't really sound right, and it's me making up a story about samovars. So.
But we'll never know when.
Practically, though, Emily, the samovar may have roots elsewhere in the world. Shards of a device similar to a samovar were found at an Azerbaijan archaeological site in 1989, and these shards are estimated to be at least 3,600 years old.
So that's going into BC by a lot.
Going into BC by a lot. By a lot. The ancient Greeks used a piece of cookware called an autepsa that greatly resembled the samovar and was used for the same purpose, for boiling water.
So, but the 3,600-year-old one, that was in this Russian context. That would be like a samovar.
Well, we don't know what it is. It was shards of a pottery device that people
Sure.
are like, it's maybe the earliest samovar.
Sure.
It's like samovar in the Merriam-Webster definition.
Right.
And that it is probably a thing that was used to boil water.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. But going back to autepsa, it was, not only was it used for the same purpose as samovars to boil water, the name itself also means self-boiler. It's from the ancient Greek autos, meaning self, and hepsa, meaning to boil. Yeah.
I mean, it's descriptive, so it makes sense that everyone would name it the same thing.
These, like many a samovar, could be quite expensive. Cicero, in a speech defending the farmer Sextus Roscius, claimed that one of Roscius's autepsi, which was confiscated and sold at an auction by order of the state, went at such a high price that outsiders hearing the sum believed it meant the purchase of a piece of land.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were they, like, difficult to make? Why were they so expensive?
I mean, I can't say for autepsi, for the ancient Greek, because there's not very much information about them.
Sure.
That's like one of the only things that we know about them.
Sure.
But samovars, they just took very long because there was so many parts that had to be made, and they were often made in separate factories for a while at least. It's possible that a closer relative to the samovar is the Chinese huagua, or hot pot, though these were used for boiling broth for cooking and not water for tea. But they're like a similar device, you know?
Right.
It's like a thing in the middle to heat the liquid around it.
Similar in structure.
And the English, Dutch, and Americans used devices similar to the samovar in the 18th and 19th centuries called tea urns or hot water urns. And they're ancestors of the electric urns you might see at a catered event for hot water and all that such.
We always get there last.
Yeah, they always get there last. The Russian precursor to the samovar was the zbytnik, a kettle invented by the 18th century zbytin vendors, or zbytinschik, for keeping their zbytin warm in the cold winter streets.
Kyle, you've said it so many times. What does that mean?
I'm so glad you asked, Emily. Zbytin is a traditional Eastern Slavic hot drink made with honey, water, spices, and jam, and dates all the way back to at least the 12th century.
I mean, it sounds delicious.
It sounds really good. It sounds really good.
That makes sense that people would be drinking it for 900 years.
Yeah. I mean, they still make it today. There are recipes for it. Make some zbytin at home.
I might.
Well, if you're going to make it to sell, Emily, just know that a zbytinschik needed to be stout and strong to carry the heavy metal pot and glasses, and they advertised their drink with loud chastushkas, or traditional ironic Russian folk poems.
Oh,
Tushkas.
they had to be ironic?
They were always ironic and often vulgar.
Okay.
I could not say any of them. That's how vulgar some of them are. And also hard to find like English translations of.
Sure. I mean, listen, I'll do what I gotta do.
Yeah. Google it at home, everybody.
No, I meant to sell this drink. I'll write a vulgar ironic poem.
These chastushkas could be set to music, and in fact, the Czech composer Antoine Bolant's comic opera Zbítinček features an aria based entirely on the traditional cries of the Zbítin seller.
Oh, I want to find that aria for sure.
Right? Like, I gotta listen to this. It's just a whole opera about these people.
And all in Russian swears.
In Russian swears, yeah. Zbítin remained popular even when tea, which is now seen as one of Russia's national drinks, came round to town.
I feel like you could say that tea is the national drink of several countries. I don't know if Russia can claim that.
It is, though. It is. Like, it's not like national as in, like, they claim tea, because they did not claim tea. Like, that is not their invention. But It is probably the most drink. The most dranked drink in Russia.
But I'm saying you could say that of other places, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, sure. But also Russia.
Sure.
I'm glad we're on the same page. So the 1689 Treaty of Nerchinsk marked the creation of the Siberian route, or tea road trade route, along with the 1727 Treaty of Kyakhta, opened trade between Russia and China, allowing Russian caravans to bring back tea. So that's around late 1600s, early 1700s is when Russia started getting tea.
Okay.
At first, it was like way too expensive and only the rich people drank it, but then they started getting more and more of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Records show that not long after, the first samovars were created in the Ural Mountains, though the metalworking town of Tula is more closely associated with their birth. It's in Tula that two brothers, Ivan Fyodorovich Lisytsyn and Nazar Fyodorovich Lisytsyn, manufactured their first samovar, and the first samovar in Tula. And it just kicked off. Everybody wanted to make samovars after that. It was just like,
I'll have what they're having.
We're doing it too.
You made this, I made this.
I made this. It's like when you go to a craft fair and you see like, wow, that was really good. They sold a lot of that. And the next year it's like, oh, everybody's selling this now, huh?
Isn't that interesting?
So, Emily, by 1808, Tula had 8 samovar factories. 8 in Tula.
In one town?
In one town. By 1850, they had 28, producing 120,000 samovars a year, cementing Tula as the samovar capital of the world.
Wow.
By the turn of the century, by the 1900s, there were like 54 samovar factories in Tula.
In one town? How big is this town?
I don't know, honestly, but it's Russia, so probably enormous.
I guess. I was picturing like a village in the mountains, though.
Yeah. I mean, with the name like Tula.
I'm not.
Yeah. It's a factory village.
Like, it's all made of like wood and stone.
All the factories.
Yeah.
Yeah, thatched roof factories.
Yep. It sets on fire a lot, but, you know, they make a lot of money.
The association between samovars and Tula led to the expression, to go to Tula with your own samovar, meaning to do something that is clearly not needed.
Really good.
The overlap of the spread of tea through the region and the boom in samovar production wasn't coincidental, Emily. The samovar was the perfect device for brewing tea the Russian way. And what made them perfect was the konforka, or crown, a ring which topped the samovar and allowed a teapot to be placed there for warming.
Aha! So you could brew it and warm it.
Well, you see, the Russian tea brewing process was a 2-step process. First, a concentrated tea called zawarka, also from the word that samovar comes from, varitya, to boil, is brewed in a teapot and poured into individual cups. So it's a very concentrated tea solution, right? That's poured into individual cups.
Okay.
Then the tea is diluted using the boiling water, or kipatok, which is also a colloquial word for a hot-tempered person. Kipatok.
A boiler.
And the proportion of this is generally 10 parts water to 1 part tea. That's how concentrated the tea solution is. And then it can be sweetened with sugar, honey, lemon, milk, jam, or fruit preserves, and on special occasions, alcohol.
Whoa.
An anecdote from Prince Pyotr Vyazemsky relates, once when a host was pouring rum into a cup of tea, his hand quavered for a moment and he poured in too much and exclaimed, "Ah!" Then he asked his guest if he should pour him some rum too, but this time he poured very carefully and rather reluctantly. "No," said the guest, "I'll have some of the that you have."
I'll have what he's having.
Yeah, maybe some of that. I love this prince that he had to write this down, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's a golden anecdote.
In Russian prisons, Emily, where tea is popular but alcohol is usually prohibited, they drink shefir, a tea that uses 5 to 8 tablespoons of leaves per person, and is so strong it exhibits psychoactive properties and mild narcotic effects, and may cause vomiting if drank too quickly.
So if you can't get drunk, get high.
Get blasted on this tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, why not? A lot of people in Russia probably have that opinion. Why not?
Yeah.
Emily, the ease by which the samovar allowed many cups of tea to be brewed over a long period of time meant that soon samovars were a necessary part of every Russian household, and a well-polished and properly maintained one was a sign of hospitality and good manners of the host.
Love that. Very xenial to have a good samovar.
Very xenial, exactly. The 20th century writer Alexander Virkhov wrote, "Muscovites drank tea in the morning, at noon, and at 4 in the afternoon samovars were boiling in every house. If the coals in the samovar crackled and sang songs, the superstitious Muscovite rejoiced. This was a good sign. The worst omen, however, was if the samovar sprung a leak. Trouble would surely follow."
I mean, yes, but also
Yes,
trouble could follow shortly if you've got boiling water pouring all over the place.
Just a problematic thing, you know? The pervasiveness of Russian tea drinking, or chipitya, also led to phrases like "to have a sit by the samovar," meaning to have a leisurely talk, used to describe or initiate social gatherings. Let's have a sit by the samovar.
A fireside chat, a samovar chat.
Come on. Someone who is puffing like a samovar is someone who is slightly out of breath. And you may call someone who is hot-tempered a little samovar.
A little samovar.
A little samovar.
Love it. Love those.
Yeah. And I wasn't able to get into it this episode, but like truly there's this whole culture behind like drinking tea in Russia with the samovar. You would sit for hours. If you were a visitor, you were expected to stay to have tea, and vice versa. Like the host was expected to serve you tea.
Sure. And
there was this, like, you always had to eat the tea with something. It was always served with pastries, with hors d'oeuvres that you were saying, but it was always desserts.
Sure.
You know, it's this whole elaborate,
like a ritual
kind of hospitality thing. Ritual. Exactly. Yeah. But what firmly embedded samovars into the zeitgeist as a symbol of Russian hospitality were the Russian Romantic writers. The novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote in his novel Podrostok, or The Adolescent, "The samovar is the most essential thing in Russia, especially at times of particularly awful, sudden, and eccentric catastrophes and misfortunes."
Wow.
Sounds like a really Russian thing to say to me. I don't know.
Probably because Russia is often having a catastrophe.
Yeah. And the poet Boris Sadovsky wrote of the device, The samovar in our lives, unconsciously for ourselves, occupies a huge place. As a purely Russian phenomenon, it is beyond the understanding of foreigners. Russian people, in the hum and whisper of the samovar, have heard familiar voices since childhood: sighs, spring wind, mother's dear songs, the cheerful, inviting whistle of a village blizzard. These voices are not heard in a European city cafe.
Was that a village wizard? Is that what you said?
Village blizzard.
Oh.
I don't know if that's a cheerful, inviting whistle.
I mean, if you live in a place where it snows a lot, I imagine you would have to find cheerfulness in a blizzard.
Yeah. And and I've got my warm tea to drink
Yeah,
later.
we're inside, we're cozy, we're having a samovar gathering. Let it snow.
Let it snow. Hashtag let it snow. The use of the samovar did spread to other areas of the world. Iran, Turkey, and the Kashmir region all have their own samovars or samovar analogs.
Sure.
Like similar devices that were directly born from the samovar. But the invention of the electric kettle and the electric samovar saw the popular use of traditional samovars decline, leaving our gleaming metal friends as beautiful antiques and precious family heirlooms representing the olden days of Russian hospitality.
And isn't that just the most Russian thing, to be pining for the olden days?
Pining for the olden days.
Like, truly,
Scarily, yes. Mm-hmm.
At least in Anastasia it is.
Well, I mean, that's also about, the revolution, which actually is a big part of the samovar story, but I could not cover it.
Sure. But maybe we'll find a way to talk about that
Maybe
later,
we'll find a way
because I'm curious
to talk about it. But Emily, now it is your job to encase that heirloom, the Russian samovar, in a sentence.
Yeah. Yep. I want to use it in one of the phrases that you said, because I liked all of those.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay. Kyle, listen, I have a confession to make. I came into this episode ready to do a word, and then I remembered that it was your episode, and then I felt like the fool because I had shown up to Tula with a samovar.
Yeah, with your own samovar.
With my
Emily,
own samovar, and
beautiful.
It's just, I wasn't needed.
I think you are officially a Russian citizen. Congratulations, Emily.
I don't know if I want that.
Well, not right now, but maybe in the future.
It's true. It's good to, good to just have options.
It's good. And I'm a citizen of every country on the planet, even the micronations.
That's right. And we can travel because we know things. We're wise.
Emily, that's samovar.
Super fun. I don't know if we've done a Russian word on the podcast before.
I feel like you did. Yeah, you did Zemblanity.
Oh, sure. That one was a little bit Russian. Yes.
Russian.
But this was good. This was like full Russian culture, and I'm digging it. Great stuff.
Emily, would you like to play a game with some more Russian culture?
I so would. Let's do it.
Emily, your game today is Barkeep, I'll take a polite Russian, please. It's supposed to be a white Russian joke. I don't know.
Really good. No, I read it. It was good.
Okay, good. So samovars were such a big thing, Emily, that the Russian language has even more phrases about the samovar.
I love this.
So I've got a word bank for you, and I've got a couple of phrases, and you're going to have to tell me what word is missing from this phrase.
Okay.
Your word bank is go away, leave, life, paradise, and sauna whisk. It is going to probably be easy for you, but it's
sauna
just to get
whisk.
these phrases in
here.
Yeah. Emily, your first phrase is the samovar boils and tells you not to blank.
Leave?
Yeah, leave. You got it.
I was confused because leave and go away are very close.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you think you know what that means? The samovar boils and tells you not to leave?
I mean, I just can't. I'm thinking like literally, like if someone's on their way out the door, you say like, wait, no. Yeah. I couldn't find exact English translations of like what these phrases mean, other than their exact literal translations. But like the way that this one is used, I think that's exactly it. It's like, but
the samovar is boiling, so you have to stay longer. I
can't
really
go.
can't stay. Baby, it's cold outside. It's that kind of thing,
Yeah.
But the samovar is boiling.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, your next one is a bathhouse without a blank is like a samovar without a pipe.
A sauna whisk?
A sauna whisk.
That
Emily,
object that we
you
all know
got it.
about?
Yeah. So a sauna whisk is when I explain this to you, you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. Have you ever seen in, I guess, popular depictions of saunas, maybe of old, it's like a bundle of branches, like leaves, that you literally whip yourself with to get the blood circulating like near the skin so that you like feel the effects of the sauna.
Horrifying. I have not ever seen that.
That's what a sauna whisk is.
Wow. Okay. I don't like the idea of whisking my skin, but I'm sure it's nice.
I mean, it's like leaves, so it's not like really like scratchy,
Sure.
It's just kind of to irritate it.
Sure.
But the Russians have a traditional steam bath called a banya, which is what this phrase is referencing.
Sure.
It's like you wouldn't go to a banya without a steam whisk. That's like having a samovar that doesn't have a pipe for the smoke,
Right. It's just not what it is. Yeah.
All right, Emily, this is your last one. With the samovar, conversations are more important and blank is more fun.
Life,
Emily! I told you it was going to be really easy.
That's okay. Those are fun.
But yeah, that one's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But it nicely encapsulates
yeah. And you know
the
what?
samovar to Russia.
It nicely encapsulates this episode, Kyle. Now that we have a samovar in our lives, we're better off.
We're better off. Absolutely. I'm going to replace my Keurig with a samovar.
I'm going to replace my telephone with a samovar. People just have to come to me now.
Oh, that is a really weird replacement, I gotta be honest, because that's insinuating, Emily, that you're gonna use the samovar as a telephone.
No, I'm gonna give people no
face.
other means of speaking to me, so they have to come. But then when they arrive, I'll say, yeah, but I made tea.
Beautiful. Well, Emily, I think we should thank all of our viewers and listeners out there for having this sit by a samovar with us. What do you think?
We absolutely should. And everybody, listen, remember, you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips, and you can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media as well, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you like today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really like today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.